Hey guys, thanks for joining me for the first edition of the Lunar Orbit podcast. My name is Gerry, and today is Monday, January 24th of 2022. All right, let's get into it. One of the things people often talk about is price action, but something that I really like to keep a close eye on is the market cap of UST, because if that keeps going up, that means more and more Luna is getting burned every day. And as we can see, the trend is our friend. It keeps climbing. We're adding between sort of $400 and $500 million in UST being minted every week, more or less. So it's very bullish for the ecosystem that keeps ticking up despite the turbulence in the broader market. If we have a look at the Luna price itself, not so worried about the actual dollar value, but you can see it's really breaking out against Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is pretty what everyone pegs everything else to, other than the US dollar amount. So that's very encouraging as well. It's been pulled back quite a bit since it reached its all-time high in dollar terms, but against ETH and Bitcoin, it's still trending higher, which is also very bullish. The other thing I like to check is the Terra analytics page by smartstake.io, and we can see that the daily supply of Luna, it's in the red every day, which means that there's less and less of it. So as you can see, the last 3 days we went through, it looks like 1.3 million, 1.2 million, 1.3 million, and so far today about 400,000 less of Luna. So it's getting burnt at a pretty rapid rate. So at some point, there could well be a demand shock, and usually the price spikes pretty quick when that happens. So just a bit of a recap on some of the recent news. I'm looking at this tweet here from Do Kwon, where he announced LFG.org, which was a bit of a meme. LFG's thrown around in crypto terms quite a lot. Let's effing go. So they made a play on that and created a foundation, a non-for-profit foundation called the Luna Foundation Guard. And the Terraform Labs guys basically donated 50 million Luna to bootstrap this. So they're going to be creating a decentralized Forex reserve. I'm not sure if that's related to the Vertex protocol, but we'll find out soon. And then they're also going to have some public goods fundings and grants, probably similar to like a Gitcoin grants in a way, or the Ethereum Foundation for Ethereum. So basically Terraform Labs is taking its first steps towards full decentralization, which is very important. And it sounds like over the next year or so, Terraform Labs is probably going to completely dissolve and possibly burn the rest of their Luna. There are also rumors they're trying to create an OTC trade, over-the-counter trade with 3 Hours Capital and Binance to basically sell some of their Luna in exchange for Bitcoin, which they might use to help back out UST reserves. I don't think they really need to, because UST is functioning perfectly well as it is, but as a marketing thing and for optics, it's still a pretty good play. And cutting in those VCs, some people might think it sounds a bit dirty, but they can really push the ecosystem forward over time, especially if they've been given a long vesting schedule and certain conditions on how they can sell their Luna bags they're about to inherit. So that's all rumor though, so it'd be very interesting to see how that plays out. Having a bit of a look at some of the team. So we've got Do and Nick here from Terraform Labs, of course, and they've been joined by Remy, one of the co-founders of Real Vision, who, if you're not familiar with Real Vision, they're kind of like a YouTube for macro and financial applications, whatnot. Raoul Pal's a big believer in crypto these days. He's actually the reason I got into crypto. I'm like, if this old boomer macro hedge fund guy seems to be interested in crypto, this must have some legs. So it's when I started going down the rabbit hole in 2019. They've also got Jump Capital on board. So Canav here, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He's the head of Jump Crypto, and they do a lot of infrastructure building for crypto. And you can see they've teamed up with quite a few other heavy hitters here, including Solana and Wormhole, CoinHacker, which is one of the biggest exchanges in Singapore, and a few others as well, 0x Protocol, a few other exchanges. So that's quite encouraging. So that was big news. Pretty good to see that that's happening, and they're starting to decentralize so quickly. So that's very encouraging. Next up, the Lunaverse NFT project just dropped its light paper, and it's quite cool. It looks like a really impressive build out of a metaverse virtual environment with play to earn dynamics, and just having a really quick look at the light paper here, if it loads up. So they're going to be modeling their metaverse initially on actual real world cities. If I can just scroll down and find some. So it's, full 3D, very impressive. They're going to, I believe, start with San Francisco and Las Vegas as their first sort of areas to play and learn in, and to start staking your NFTs and advertising. It looks like a pretty ambitious project. But what I really like, if I can just find it a little bit further down, is here's some of the new cities: Melbourne, Sydney in Australia, New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. But further down is the play to earn mechanics that are really got me excited. And one thing that Luna has that no other blockchain has is the Anchor protocol and the capacity to earn a fantastic yield on UST. So a lot of these NFT projects are building in these really smart dynamics, where with this one, for instance, the NFT investor who comes and purchases their NFT land, 90% of the sale price gets pumped into the Anchor protocol, and 50% of that gets reinvested in Anchor in a virtuous loop. And also 50% of the yield generated by the actual NFT sale goes back to the original investor. So you're literally getting paid to buy your NFT over time, which is really, really cool. It creates a virtuous feedback loop, basically, to generate some real value. So if the project's successful, it's got this underpinning it, which is really impressive. So that's what I wanted to show you with the Lunaverse.io white paper drop. So check it out, have a bit more of a read. It's something to keep your eye on. I think they're going to have an IDO soon, but I haven't really delved deep into it myself just yet. So the other big news this week so far is Prism Protocol. Depending on when you listen to this, the initial phase of their token launch might be just about to start. So they go into some detail here on their initial token launch. Phase 1, they call it the Forge. So basically you've got a 4-day window starting from tomorrow to come and deposit your UST, and there is no set price. The price is determined on how much UST goes into the pool. And on the 5th day, if you like, you've got a 24-hour window where you can start to withdraw some of your funds. You can only make one withdrawal, and it falls by 4.2% every hour for 24 hours to prevent whales trying to manipulate this market. So you pop in UST, and at the end of it, you get Prism tokens. So you don't actually get your UST back. You're literally buying it. So I've done an in-depth video on this, which is about to drop shortly. So I'll put a link in the description in case you want to take a deeper dive into it. Quite bullish on the protocol. It's got 4 value capturing mechanisms built into the token, the Prism token, that are going to be capturing value from day one, which is pretty exciting. So lastly, I just wanted to mention the Nexus Protocol, the Psi token. They've basically dropped a new roadmap for the year. I also did a bit more of an in-depth video on this too, so if you want to have a bit more of a deep dive, check out my video in the link. But basically they're sort of expanding out their offerings, moving just away from the anti-liquidation vault service that they had. That'll still be there, of course, but they're adding on to that with some other delta neutral and hedged positions. And then they've got this labs section, which is more for the degens, the higher yield, higher risk, higher return, but also probably safer and more efficient than doing it yourself. So that should be quite cool to see the offerings they come out of there. It's sort of a bit like YN Finance, Wi-Fi on Ethereum, and some of their riskier offerings versus just depositing, a single asset and getting a bit of yield. They've also got this LP money market, which is this here. So this is going to be a whole new borrowing and lending market within Terra, which I think is going to be fabulous, because at the moment, all of our LP positions are locked up in, Astroport or TerraSwap, And yeah, you can get a bit of yield off them, but you can't leverage off them. You cannot borrow off those positions. So this is a lot of locked liquidity that's going to get unlocked by the LP money market. And for the people who just want to play it safe and deposit a single asset with no permanent loss, they're going to get it enticed to do that with a floating interest rate that is basically played off from the other side. It's all supply and demand from one side to the other. And without UST in here, none of this works. So the idea is you'll get a greater than average return that you would normally get just by putting your UST into the Anchor Earn protocol. You'll get substantially higher returns. It's going to fluctuate, of course, but over time it should be much higher than 20%, I would imagine. So that's quite cool. They've also got some leveraged UST farming via Mirror, so you can basically get more dollars for your dollars and earn more interest off of it, done in a pretty smart way by minting M assets and then selling them, and getting more and more UST and repeating the cycle until it meets its target percentage yield. Also, this one's got me really excited. A fully on-chain rebalancer bot, or rebalancer vault as they call it. So KuCoin have these pretty cool products. Not that I've used them myself, but I have heard good things about them. If you really want to just earn some passive yield, you can almost pick, any asset, something like Litecoin, that sort of doesn't really do much but go sideways. Sometimes those things are perfect. They just generate yield. But with this, it'll be for Luna initially and potentially other B assets over time. The idea is that when the price of Luna goes up, it sells a bit. When it dips below a certain threshold, it buys a bit. When it goes above, it sells, and rinse and repeat. So you can imagine inside a day in a volatile market that we're having at the moment, this is triggering lots of little transactions and each time adding a bit of value and just slowly growing your bag. Now, you can have impermanent loss in this situation, so you might not want to go 50-50 Luna if you're a Luna bull, but if you want to harness some of the volatility as we make our way to $1,000, then you might want to go 90-10, for instance. So that's going to be a really popular offering, and this is basically CFI. CFI's strategy, if you're familiar with him on Twitter Spaces, he's prolific on Twitter, and especially Twitter Spaces. The leverage B asset strategy is basically Luna Omics's strategy. So he's another prevalent Twitter personality. So he's been helping people explain how you can responsibly borrow through Anchor to buy more Luna and just manage your loan to value ratio in a safe way so you don't get liquidated. So to have a service that does this for you where you just drop your money in and forget about it and make sure you don't get liquidated, but it actually juices up your rewards and exposure to Luna, I can see that being very popular as well. So anyway, guys, that's about it for today's little session. I'll try and get these out semi-regularly. Just depends on the news flow and how busy I am as well. But thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.